But first, let's get to this North Korean summit. Now, of course, this was the second meeting that Trump has had with Kim Jong-un, the first one being back in Singapore last year. And in that first meeting, a lot of things happened. The U.S. president met with the North Korean leader. That was big in itself, but afterwards, Trump claimed that North Korea was no longer a threat to the world, that he had made a deal with Kim, and he would get rid of all of his nuclear weapons. That was big. North Korea at times was called the biggest threat to Asia, if not the world. They are a nation run by an unpredictable dictator with a nuclear bomb. So that was great news. He was getting rid of all of his things, all of his weapons. During this meeting, they had a very publicized signing of documents, and Trump said that he had gotten Kim to agree that North Korea would get rid of its bombs, and he was going to pull the U.S. military out of South Korea. But then, as you would have guessed, people read that document, that one that they signed, and nowhere in the document did it actually say that he was going to get rid of the bombs. It was more of a general statement. Yeah, Trump said everything is good, they're going to denuclearize. But over time, it has appeared to be just the opposite. Kim actually ramped up his nuclear production. Spy satellites showed multiple sites where his nuclear program was continuous and as if nothing had happened. So the critics of the U.S. president claim that the U.S. gave up a lot and the North Korea really gave up nothing. That Trump was easily manipulated by Kim and got what he wanted without having to give up anything, including his bombs. So Trump said, okay, let's have another summit. We will meet again and tie up all these loose ends. So this past week in Hanoi, Vietnam, they met up again. Trump flew in Air Force One, as he usually does, while Kim took the train, which was a 2-day train ride. You know, people have surmised that the reason why Kim took the train was because, well, they don't have a plane that can fly that far in North Korea. Actually, that might be true. When he went to Singapore for the first summit, he went on a borrowed plane from China. Also, supposedly Kim wants to mimic his grandfather, who also took the train to Vietnam. Kim's train actually is called DF-0002, while his grandfather's train was entitled DF-0001. Both trains are green and will only travel at around 60 kilometers per hour. So, after arriving on the slow green train, there was a big fanfare with a band playing and a red carpet, and of course the bodyguards that run alongside of Kim's limo. It's kind of cool. When Trump and Kim finally met, there was lots of camera clicking, lots of handshakes for the big meeting, which was deemed to change the course of history. So they walked around a bit, all chummy, before going into the meeting. Afterwards, there was a luncheon planned along with a big signing of the new agreement. Now, this meeting was big for Trump, partly because many back in the U.S. were saying that there was no evidence that Kim would ever denuclearize or get rid of his bombs. That the president should not go to this meeting. It shouldn't be a summit. But Trump, the deal maker that he is, decided he could make this deal, so everyone was waiting to see what great deal could be made. Well, the meeting, which was supposed to last several hours, lasted only 30 minutes. The two sides came up to the meeting and left. What happened? How could the whole deal fall apart in 30 minutes? Reporters were all in shock. This wasn't the way it was supposed to go. What about the signing of the new document? What about the lunch? All the events were immediately canceled. So what the heck happened? You know, did someone make a chubby Asian joke? You know, in China, they recently banned internet chubby jokes about Kim. Maybe Kim watched the Cohen hearings before the meeting. All right, we're going to talk about that later. The answer is, well, slightly unclear. Depends on who you listen to. Trump, who gets caught telling mistruths daily, or the incredible deceptive North Koreans. What's the real answer? So, Trump said the North Koreans wanted all the sanctions lifted, and in return, they would dismantle some of their weapons facilities. Trump said basically they wanted the sanctions lifted in their entirety, which he couldn't do that. But then the North Korean, the foreign minister, he said, oh, no, that's not what he said. He said, we only asked for some sanctions to be lifted and in return would permanently and completely dismantle the main nuclear facility in the presence of American experts. He said, given the current level of trust between North Korea and the United States, this was the maximum step for denuclearization that he could offer. He said, this kind of opportunity may never come again. So I just don't get it. How could their statement be so different? Did the interpreter screw something up? How could there be such a misunderstanding? Is one side lying, or do they just not understand each other? I mean, Trump is the deal maker. Okay, he may have messed up the wall thing and the foreign trade, but this was supposed to be the slam dunk deal. And here's the interesting thing. It all fell apart in 30 minutes. I mean, didn't they know what the other one was going to say? Didn't they call or text each other before the meeting? All this buildup for months and months, and the whole thing only lasted 30 minutes? Don't you guys want to at least talk about it a little bit? I mean, why didn't Trump say, if you don't agree with something, then, well, we're going to do this. Anyway, no deal in Vietnam, no signing, no lunch. And now Kim has to take that train all the way back home. But here's the thing. First, Trump's going to have a hard time calling himself the great deal maker anymore. That train's left the station, so to speak. But now, we're right back where we started from. North Korea doesn't have to play nice anymore. They can go right back to threatening the world and making bombs. Just like Iran after Trump pulled the U.S. out of that deal. In the Singapore summit before Trump bluffed a little bit. Kim pulled out his aces. Now, Kim is going to get a lot of sympathy from this meeting. Other countries are going to come running to his side saying, don't worry, we'll protect you from this mean U.S. I just don't see why the people working for Trump didn't figure all this out ahead of time. This is a huge embarrassment for the U.S., isn't it? Trump wanted that Nobel Peace Prize. He was making the world a safer place. And then in the middle, this whole thing, Trump made this statement that Kim told him that he had nothing to do with the death of the American student Odo Warmbringer. And Trump said, I believe him. Does Trump not know that this is the same guy that put his uncle to death and fed him to his dogs? So they say. Anyway, in my opinion, Kim's holding all the cards in this round. He either got the crippling sanctions lifted or got to keep his nukes, which keeps himself and his family in power for at least another generation. And in the meantime, we all have to still pay attention to it because he can blow us up, right? Still trying to get my head around why they went to all this trouble. I mean, was it a distraction from something else? Oh yeah. We're going to get into what happened in the U.S. in a minute this week. But I think what needs to happen now, or should I say what's going to happen now, is someone else is going to take over and get this job done. And who is that? Starts with a C, ends with an A, has a Hein in the middle. Okay, it's China. No one really benefits more from this debacle than them. So let's see if they step up to the card table and place a bet on North Korea. I mean, in the meantime, Trump is heading back to the lion's den and Kim is on his turtle train going back to North Korea. I would love to see what they're doing on that train right now. Staring at each other with worried looks, or drinking champagne and dancing to, well, whatever they dance to in North Korea. This is Eric LeCain here on The Jam on DZRJ Radio, the voice of the Philippines. We are talking about stories going on